Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 352 and to 354, 352 to 354 for the 10th to the 12th of February. Let's start off with some obvious stuff first. The Russian Defense Ministry in their daily report on the 10th of February reported that they have launched a massive missile strike from the sea, the air, and the ground, and then also by UAVs, drones, against power facilities and defense industrial complex and transport systems. So the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, from my memory, reported that they hit a lot of these targets, most of it, but the Russians claim that they have achieved their target, achieved their goals. All the assigned targets were neutralized. So yeah, so no, depending on who you want to believe, both sides will always say that they are the ones that are successful. The on the 11th of February, one Russian Sukhoi 25 was shot down over Ukraine. Specific locations is unclear. Moving on to the Odessa front. So this is it's been a long time since we have talked about anything in Odessa, and this is like a Back to the Future, which is actually seems to have like a misnomer. We're back in history, and the Russians airstrike Snake Island. Zeimny Island got hit by a Sukhoi 24M. The Russian aircraft dropped 4 bombs on Zeimny Island, and that's it. I didn't see anything mentioned about this by the Russian Defense Ministry, and I'm not sure what is being hit on the island. I don't think it's air defense system, since they actually got hit by an aircraft. And then the Russians also strike the world's most hated bridge, the bridge at Zatoka. So this bridge here, this bridge here is hit by naval drones. So there is this footage of a naval some kind of a ship or drone thingy that actually lights up on this infrared camera, where it actually let me draw, where there's a drone move all the way, and boom, let me boom it, boom, yeah, one very big boom. And then yeah, the aftermath of this explosion is unclear, and it's also quite surprising how powerful that explosion is, given how small the craft seems to be. And for those that might want to take a look, let's see, so we can actually drop in and go. Holy hell! Don't. Oh, we can't. Oh my god! Can we go in? No. Oh god. Okay, we can come here. So Zeimny, the bridge in question is this. This is the bridge in question. So from the footage, the drone actually moved all the way to this right pillar here, and once it got under this pillar, one massive explosion, just boom. So that happened. So this bridge has been hit so many times, I actually lost count. In the very last exclusive video on this explosion of an attack on this bridge was actually the 9th time that the bridge was attacked. So this is probably the 10th, I guess, at least reported once, I guess. So moving on from the Odessa front, we actually have nothing on the Kherson front or the Kherson front. You guys are influencing me to speak the names correctly. I'm very disturbed. Moving on to the Zaporizhzhia region. At the Zaporizhzhia region, there is a Ukrainian helicopter, Mi-8, shot down over Ternivka. So it's actually very far away. I tried to find somewhere that is nearer. I didn't really find a place that is nearer, because it seems a bit far from the front line. There is a geolocation of Russian forces south of Mali Shebaki, according to the Ukrainian pro-Ukrainian source, Deep State UA, south of Shebaki. So that at least we can confirm that at least the Russians are just south of it. Moving on, there is fighting reported near Zalizhnye. which actually is southwest of Huaypo or Huaypole. And this is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. I'm not sure, exactly what's the details about this. On the Zaporizhzhia line, there's also fighting reported at Novopil. This is reported on the for the 10th of February. Shelling was reported at Novosilka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, on the 11th of Feb. And that's all. Very sporadic kind of things at the Zaporizhzhia region. The entire Zaporizhzhia super duper uber offensive has, in my opinion, entirely over. So unless they come out with version 2.0, this entire Russian push at this region here mostly on this side has entirely gone. Is all a failure, a massive failure. And this is actually this actually put a lot of pressure on the Russian defense, on the Russian military, because they are now being stressed or pressured by the public, and also of course probably someone high up or people high up in the bureaucracy, demanding results from the Russian military, because the Wagner private military contractors is doing so well in the Bakhmut region, especially when most of the Ukrainian forces, a huge number of Ukrainian forces is actually there. So yet, after drawing so much forces away from other fronts, the Russian military still doesn't seem to be able to crack the nut that is called peanut. So over at the Donetsk Front, this is Donetsk City, at the Vuhledar line. So this region here is the Vuhledar line. It does look like a line, right? And in the center there is Vuhledar City. So at the Vuhledar line, there is fighting reported at Zatoka naval, reported by War Gonzo for the 10th of February. Same thing for Prashestivka. I think this is just some I'm not sure if this is accurate, because War Gonzo is my secondary source. They are not a primary source. They can be wrong. Yeah, but it was not mentioned anymore. And there was shelling reported on Prashestivka. So I wonder if it actually is related to all these things. And then at Vuhledar region, so there is heavy shelling at Vuhledar, near Vuhledar on the 10th and on the 11th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. They did not say Vuhledar, but they say near. But of course, if you're inside, you're also still very near. You're just like super duper near. And there's also shelling reported near Pelivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, where they say that they use air force and artillery, doing fire strikes on the Ukrainian positions. And then on the 11th, there is fighting reported near Vuhledar, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And then on the 12th, War Gonzo reported that fighting is reported on the southern outskirts of the city, and the Ukrainian forces are able to repel the attack. So it's unclear, exactly where the fighting actually is. It seems like to be here by right, and then on the War Gonzo report it seems to be like here. But as I mentioned, this nut, I think today's theme is all about nuts. This peanut here is unlikely to be broken or taken out due to all these mining operations. And given the high ground, it's just impossible for the Russians to take Vuhledar anymore. I think this entire thing is just like a goner. So near Mikhailsky, there is a geolocation of Russian forces by Deep State UA around this position. So this is so this actually helps to at least confirm that there is no Ukrainian troops by this line here. Otherwise, it's still pretty much a gray zone in this vast farmland region. Another geolocation is actually reported here, because all these are just like drone footages of Russian forces getting shelled. Yeah, it looks like some radio tower here, so it does make sense. Is it radio tower? No, then this looks like a mining thing. Yeah, so Yeah, so that's what it is. So there's nothing to see. Okay, moving on. The Novo-Mikhailivka region, fighting is reported towards Paraskoviyevka, according to Wogonzo, on the 10th of February. As you can see by the lack of icons, nothing came out of this. Vuhledar saw fighting on the 11th and on the 12th, on the past 2 days, according to Wogonzo and Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Marinka itself, heavy fighting is reported all 3 days from the 10th to the 12th, where the Russians are attacking inside, according to within the city limits of Wogonzo, and then urban fighting continues reported by Wogonzo. So it's just fighting reported by Marinka. It's a really flattened town now. There's really like everything is just smashed. So it's really not fighting for anything. It's just like I mentioned before, it just reminds me of Stalingrad. There's literally no reasons why you should be fighting so hard for something that is nothing. Anyway, moving on into the northwest part of Donetsk City, at the Nevelsky, there is fighting reported on the 10th and on the 12th. On the 11th. One is by Deep State UA, and then it was reported by Wogonzo on the 11th. Performansky also see fighting reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 11th, and then on the 12th, of course, as usual, Wogonzo will repeat the same information. And then at the north of Opine, there is a geolocation of Russian forces around this region here, and then fighting was reported north of Opine on the 10th of Feb. So this is both on the same day. So I wonder if it's the same thing where the Russian forces is pushing northward. But of course, but this footage is quite sad. The Russian forces is actually getting plummeted, and the Deep State UA's mapping is very interesting. They map it in this way. So the Ukrainian lines are a bit like this. So this is their line, and then the Russian forces was like attacked here. Where they actually moved out, maybe going for an attack, and then they got hit. But they got hit here by the Ukrainian forces. So very confusing place. Oh yeah, I added this. So I think according to SITREP maps, they reported that this entrenchment here that we are seeing now on screen is actually alive. So the Ukrainian forces is still entrenched along the entire forest line, and as such, the front line is actually looks like this. The Russian forces actually have not penetrated through. This did not happen. The Ukrainian forces is actually still very strong around this line here. So this helped to put some perspective into the situation here in the northwestern part of Donetsk City. Looks like the Avdiivka front continues to be the very, very hard to break. And another geolocation was reported in this vineyard region. So apparently this is some vineyard. It looks like some ant nest before the cracking and dry ground on this satellite image. So geolocation is here, and then so it actually seems to corroborates our front line, that our front line is actually more or less correct, and fighting is reported on the 10th of Feb, according to Wogonzo, and this is, as usual, seems like a repeat of Ukrainian Defense Ministry's report. We do not have any other fighting reported around here. Yeah, we can we go and take a look at the vineyard? Oh, some horrible. We don't really. I don't think we can see. Yeah, they put some tree fencing. No, that's so sad. Okay, never mind. Moving on. Over in the north of Avdiivka, we have fighting reported at Krasna Hora on the 10th of Feb. So, yep. And that's all from the Avdiivka front. Moving on to the New York region. Of course, as usual, unidentified flying object is UFOs are flying around. I have no idea why is it. Since it's a trend now, it's very trendy to shoot down UFOs. Don't shoot it down. Press the like button. Oh, good job. You shot it down over New York. Yeah, it's gonna make the headline news tomorrow. Moving on. At the Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, sorry, today I'm very low energy. I just woke up because so anyway, for those that are watching this, this is recorded. This is actually all mapped 3 hours ago, and then I was so tired I went to sleep. So yeah. So any information coming on the on today's wait the date suddenly changed. I think I accidentally pressed undo too much. So anything that happened on the 13th of Feb is not in this report. So don't ask me why you didn't report this. Yeah, it's 3 days of stuff. The whole weekend I just didn't manage to report any shit. So yeah, so look at this shit that's fighting near this shit. This near Klishevka, and this according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They are very very unspecific given how the front line now looks like all around Klishevka. So saying fighting is around Klishevka is like saying nothing. There is also no fighting reported towards Stupovsky on the 10th of Feb. This according to SITREP maps. And then for SITREP maps, they simply redefine the front line. And the Russians seems to based on all these different reports of different regions, seems to have really taken a good chunk of this highway. And in fact, according to Ryba, on the 10th of Feb, the Russian forces actually have entrenched themselves along this region here, along the canal region, and they have actually put a strong defense here. So this entire here is actually an entrenched position now, and then fighting is reported at this location here on the west of Ivanytsky, because this is Ivanytsky, we are on the western side, and on the 11th, on the 12th, Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and then of course Wogonzo, being the parrot, they are reported fighting towards Chasiv. Yeah, so the Russian forces is now pushing in this direction here. Maybe, but of course this can also be towards Chasiv. Yeah, because if you look at Chasivya's shape, this thingy is Chasivya. Maybe even here is Chasivya. I'm not sure. Yeah, this looks like nothing. I thought it would look like some very cool shape. Okay, let's try again. So yeah, it looks. So this super modern machine gun with a super huge magazine. Yeah, this is Chasivya. So any direction that the Russians are pushed, east towards Chasivya, so it's not very indicative of anything. So just want to tell you that towards Chasivya is very vague. Moving on, do you think this is Mykolaiivka or Chasivya? I'm very curious. So anyway, nothing to see also. I thought we can see something. Okay, moving on. At Ivanytsky, we see fighting reported on all 10 days. No, all 3 days, 10, 11, and 12. All reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The last report that I've seen, I think by Ryba, or is it Wogonzo? Yeah, Wogonzo. Wogonzo's term in their last report, I seen this morning, is that the Russians stormed Ivanytsky. What do you mean by storm? I have no idea. Did the Russians actually penetrate through or did they not? I'm not too sure. So the situation is unclear at Ivanytsky, and also of course very unclear at Chasiv. I think we will probably see more, because the forces that is fighting here is the Wagner group. So Wagner groups are very secretive in terms of their operation, which is the correct way. You don't really inform people about your active operations until you actually have done them. Anything from the front is actually operational secret. So we wouldn't know until they actually reported anything. Moving on to the Bakhmut City, the same thing happens here. We do not have much information. Wagner Group has not said much. We only know there's fighting on the eastern part of Bakhmut because Wogonzo is talking about it. However, the term they use is eastern outskirts of Bakhmut. So that is kind of curious because outskirt is actually here. This is called outskirts. These are called eastern outskirts. To say eastern outskirts is very confusing, and but that's the term that they use on both days. no, they say that Wagner is attacking on the eastern outskirts of Bakhmut. From what we understand, the Wagner groups is actually pretty deep inside, into maybe around 300 meters into the urban region already. So I don't think it's correct. Kris 7759, the world's best geolocator in the world. The world's best geolocator in the world. That's contradiction. World and world. Yeah, double positive. So no, the Ukrainians, there's a footage of Ukrainian infantry fighting vehicle roll up to this area, and then they fire a lot of shells in this direction, and then it retreated back. So wrong color, but you get my point. So this is not exactly indicative that the Ukrainian forces is here. It was geolocated of a hit and run, so it only shows the Russian forces is actually here, at least here, or at least sleeping here now permanently. But it does also show that the Ukrainian forces have the ability to travel around this region here. So this is now a gray zone, overlapping now. What is this? Oh, this is a long time ago. I forgot to delete this. Moving on to the north of Bakhmut, the Russian forces have captured this junction here. They have moved, attacked, and captured this area here, and this actually basically broke the entire communication route, because this road go all the way to Sloviansk. As you can see, it goes all the way to Sloviansk, and this road links Bakhmut to Sloviansk, and with this junction taken, that means this road is now unusable. Not to mention, the road also moved northward towards Paraskoviyevka and Vuhledar. So this road here is it's this cross now, and fighting is reported towards Orikovo Vasilievka on the 11th, according to War Gonzo. And there is some geolocations around this region here. There's a geolocation of Russian forces here. They are in some anti-tank ditch. So I suspect this ditch was actually a trench. Is probably by the Ukrainians that they actually overrun. And the fighting is now at Paraskoviyevka, with the Russian forces pushing from 3 directions, from the south, east, and the north. And to explain this a bit, you can actually go and watch the video about Krasna Hora. Otherwise, I will just do a quick one. The Russian forces actually attack in the north on the 10th of Feb, and of course they also continue their pressure on Krasna Hora in 3 directions, and fighting was reported at the southeast. So the Russian forces is pushing this way, the southeast, and of course they are pushing in this way. So previously the Ukrainian lines was around like this, and then after that, the Russian forces started to make headways. The Ukrainian forces then started to redraw, tactically, in squads, in smaller numbers, and the encirclement was achieved on the 11th. On the 11th, forces were encircled based on information from Ryba, close the ring of encirclement. So as a result, the Russians managed to push through with this as the Ukrainians quickened their withdrawal. And after that, by the 12th of February, Krasna Hora has been officially captured. This is reported by Boris Rozin. It was then verified by Ryba, and then it was also verified by Deep State UA. So Krasna Hora is definitely over its history now. And then the pressure now is on Paraskoviyevka, with the Russians continue their push in multiple directions. It's like a repeat of Krasna Hora on Paraskoviyevka. So this is what's happening around this region here. Moving up north, the Russian forces is attacking Fedorivka on all 3 days, 10, 11, and 12. War Gonzo and then Ukrainian Defense Ministry is mainly the ones that are reporting this. And fighting is reported at Vasilievka on the 12th of Feb, as well as at Rozdolivka on the 11th. So the push here seems to be very limited. I got a feeling that the Russians are not interested to capture Vasilievka. They are just holding the line. They are doing very limited push for Rozdolivka, and very limited. It doesn't seem like they're interested because Fedorivka is actually very heavily defended, because this was the front line that the Russians have tried to attack for some time, but it did not succeed. So it seems like the focus is now on Fedorivka, with the Russians wanting to take this first. I believe this will actually leads to bigger breakthroughs, because the lines here are more undefended. I think Vasilkivka, I think the Russians just didn't want to go towards that direction, because the focus now is actually on the Sivas front. So maybe not this direction. So I think the Russians are holding a line here. I think that's what's happening. Moving on to the Sivas front, there is fighting reported towards Vasily, according to War Gonzo, on the 11th of Feb. We have some geolocation of Russian forces. First, on the 10th of February, Deep State UA geolocated Russian forces at this position. And then on the 12th of Feb, they released another information saying the geolocation of Russian forces here. So the Russian forces is indeed pushing towards this forest line. So far the line is still here. It's gonna take forever for them to sneak all the way up to Vinka. And on the 12th of Feb, the latest Ukrainian Defense Ministry report says there's fighting towards Vimka. As I mentioned previously, I'm not sure if this is the one being referred by this information here. So moving on, there's fighting reported at Spurny on the 10th of Feb, according to Ryba. And then, as you can see, no more icons. That means the attack has failed miserably. The Ukrainian forces attack Zolotarivka, according to Ryba. So this is happening south of the Luhansk Bilohorivka, and the 10th separate, don't know what brigade, I forgot what is the translation for this, and they were attacking the Russian defense line at Zolotarivka, but there's no success. So means the Ukrainians are attacking in this direction. Didn't work out. The Russians are holding a good line, and Bilohorivka is very interesting. First thing, there is fighting reported by Ryba saying that the Ukrainians actually did a successful counter-offensive, and they managed to capture half of Bilohorivka. So the Ukrainians attacked this way, and then the Russians are now counter-attacking, according to Ryba. And we do know that this capture of Bilohorivka has been already disputed by SITREP Maps and Deep State UA. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry simply just said that there's fighting around this region. And so the next day, on the 11th, Bogonzo repeats what Ukrainian Defense Ministry said, that is fighting by the Russians. And on the 12th, they are still fighting, reported at Bilohorivka. Then finally, we have this geolocation by Deep State UA, geolocating that the Russian forces is actually bombarding this area, bombarding Ukrainian forces at this region. And so they actually throw the pro-Russian side, saying that no, since the Russians draw the map that Bilohorivka is under their control, their shelling actually is hitting their own troops. So, which is kind of weird. So that means that the information coming from SITREP Maps and Deep State UA is likely to be correct, that Bilohorivka is actually under Ukrainian control. My gut feeling now is actually indeed that it seems like mostly under Ukrainian control. It's not even half, even though Ryba is coping by saying that about half is under control by the Russian Defense Ministry, and the half is under the Russian forces, unless they can draw it well. But so far their mapping hasn't been very specific about Bilohorivka. It was their mapping is very macro like this, so I cannot really tell how do they look, what does it look like, because their gray zone areas is very huge. Moving on to the Kreminna Front. At the Kreminna Front, very complicated iconing. So we go for the shelling report first. There's shelling reported on the 10th and on the 12th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, where the Russian forces is shelling Ukrainian forces around Dibrova. And then there's shelling reported also within Serebryansky forestry, which is probably deep inside, I guess. And then on the 10th, fighting is reported near Kreminna, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. 12th is the information is being repeated. On the 11th, so this is 10th. The 11th, they actually say the fighting is inside the Serbyansky forestry, and then after that they repeat Kreminna again. So I'm not sure if it's because the Russians attack, the Ukrainians counterattack to push the line backwards, and then the Russians push back again. I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure what is it. What is actually happening? Very vague information. Interestingly, that on the 10th, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry also name dropped Shepilivka, and Wogonzo repeated it on the 12th though. So that means they're fighting near Shepilivka region as well. So which means in the grand picture, it looks like near Crimea. By the way, the front line might actually even be here. We are not. We can't be sure. I just changed the front line based on information that I've seen previously. The Russians might be attacking around the Crimea region. The Ukrainian forces actually do a limited counteroffensive in the south, probably trying to go like this. So this is probably what's happening. So the Russian forces continue to bombard the Ukrainian positions as much as they can to soften up the Ukrainian lines. So this is probably what's happening in Serbyansky forestry based on whatever I'm reading these past few days. And then there is also this very interesting information about Russian pushing towards Zaporizhzhia or Torske, reported by Wogonzo largely. And the Russian forces seems to be pushing in this direction towards Zaporizhzhia or actually Torske, depending on how you look at it. So the Russian forces pushing in this direction. It have been reported for all 3 days, so we continue to see what is it like. Shelling is reported at Torske yesterday, and there's a geolocation of Russian forces just 3 kilometers away from Torske. It's geolocated here, so Russian forces is actually already down here. So the push from Dibrova might actually is trying to straighten the line, which is probably what's happening now. Over at Yampolivka region, there is shelling reported on the 11th and on the 12th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, with fighting reported by Ryba yesterday on the 12th. Reinforcement is reported on the 10th at Terny and Yampolivka. So the Ukrainian forces is reinforcing Yampolivka and Terny, while as they are gathering their forces, the Russians continue to bombard them to prevent the Ukrainians from able to launch a counteroffensive. While that happened, the Russian forces attacked yesterday. So situation is still in flux. This is like a battlefield on its own. So moving on, near Shevonopopivka, there's shelling reported near on the 10th and on the 12th. We do not know much about this. And there is also fighting reported in the valley region east of Nevsky on yesterday, according to Ryba. Otherwise, bombardment reports on the 11th and on the 12th, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So the Russians are still trying to make this push around this region, and then they continue to shell Ukrainian forces. That's what is happening. And then we have this very interesting report by Surya Maps. They reported fighting south of Ploshchanka, and in their mapping, they mapped the front line to be more like this, with the Russians not here, not fighting here. So this actually contradicts my report, and I still think that it's actually very near, because based on previous information about fighting around the high grounds. So I don't think it's here. Anyway, they reported the Ukrainian forces attacking advancing towards Ploshchanka. They are actually in the south region. They are actually attacking this direction to attacking here, and they're gonna swing upwards. So they're gonna do this. Yeah. So this is what's happening. This reported yesterday, so we'll see whether this which information actually will reveal over the next few days to see certain clarity in terms of what is actually happening around here. Moving away from Kreminna Front, there is reinforcement reported at Pisky Raskivsky on the 10th of February, and then we are moving into the Sviatove Front. So this is Sviatove, and in case you are lost already, we are now here in Ukraine. Shelling is reported on all 3 days on Stemekivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and then there is shelling reported at Novosibirsk on the 10th and on the 11th. On the 11th, the Ukrainian forces also tried to counterattack, according to War Gonzo. They are trying to attack, probably didn't go far, and there is Russian forces geolocated at this position here. I put the wrong color icon. So the Russian forces is here. So, but we previously have already geolocated the Russian forces are here, and even here. But this one is a destroyed one. So front line is definitely still here. This is just additional information. Shelling is reported at Berestove on the 10th, and shelling is reported at Kromaune on the 11th and on the 11th on the 12th. I'm so tired. It's a long time since I did such a long SITREP. Okay, moving on to the Kupyansk front. At the Kupyansk front, reinforcement is reported at Kupyansk on the 10th of Feb, and we have shelling reported at Tinkovka on the 12th, and also at Peshov-Trefneve. In this very large gray zone that we do not know what's happening. Sinkivka actually see Russian attacks on both days, on the 10th and on the 10th and the 12th. So the Russians are continuing to make this push towards Sinkivka, and there is also rumors that Liman Pershi has been captured by the Russian forces. So according to Ryber, they mentioned that this location is actually wait, let me look for it. They confidently entrenched themselves in Liman first, which is Liman Pershi. So it does seems like they entrenched themselves, means that they actually captured this location. So it's a bit unclear while the Russian forces attack Sinkivka. So moving on, there's fighting reported at Mesitivka on the 10th, and shelling is reported at this location on the 12th. So which means the Russians did try to attack. It did not work out, so they hold the line and then they shell it. So they shell the position. So this is probably what's happening. And then over at the Voreshna region, shelling is reported at Novomlinsk on the 11th, and then there's shelling on the 12th on Voreshna itself, the main city here, across the Oskil River. The Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Voreshny. So this actually corroborated our information about the capture, reported by multiple sources. Reported by me based on the mapping by Deep State UA. And then fighting is reported on the north of Hrenikivka, near Voreshny on the 10th, and Hrenikivka on the 10th and on the 12th. So otherwise, all 3 days, Hrenikivka is getting bombarded, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So what happened is that after the capture of Voreshny, the Russian forces push towards the north of Hrenikivka, and then they continue to push in the urban region like this, and they're actually attacking from this direction, because there's also fighting reported in the southeast of Hrenikivka. So the Russian forces are actually pushing this way as well. So, and while all these things happening, the Russians continue to bombard the Ukrainian forces within Hrenikivka. So they are making a very, very serious push in this region. I got a feeling that the Ukrainians may not be able to hold, because this is a river crossing. Any crossing here probably has been taken out, or at least heavily bombarded. So, and then with the Russian forces pushing directly from the east, southeast, from the north, this is looking pretty bad for the Ukrainian forces as they hold this line, probably through the hot forest as well. So let's see, how this develop. I think this one of this, I think it's a pretty important strategic point, because the capture of Hrenikivka and securing of this river would mean that the Russians no longer need to care about this area here anymore. They can totally ignore this, and they can actually push the front line towards Kupyansk. Yeah, because there's a river to protect themselves. So this is what I think. Moving on to the Kharkiv region, there is a lot of troop movement being reported by Ryba, the pro-Russian source, where reinforcement is reported at Veliki Bolok, with Ukrainian forces are moving to this region here. Maybe actually to protect the front line. Yeah, as a quick reaction force here. And then there's troops, the Ukrainian forces spotted passing through Kochetok, and then they got passed through Koroboshkaine, and they are moving south. So this forces probably is moving from the Kharkiv region, and moving south might suggest, from the look of it, because if they are spotted here, yeah, it could be either roads. So the Ukrainian forces might actually be moving towards Kupyansk to reinforce, or they can actually be moving towards Borova, or to reinforce the other fronts. Oh my god. Yeah, to reinforce this area here. It's unclear where they are going. And I think that's it. Yay, you survived this SITREP, a very long one. This is why I don't like to have too many days passed, because the SITREP becomes really hard to report. So anyway, thank you for watching. Do subscribe and press the like button. This is the SITREP for the day of 352 to 354 for the 10th to the 12th of February. Sorry for the very boring and slow report. I'm tired. I'm still very tired. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.